Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Ball in the Boot with another segment here on Ball in the Boot, and that's the playoff bracket selection breakdown. And the playoff brackets have come here, and this is where a lot of the controversy happened this week with U High against the LHSAA. And after all, there were some rumors about the playoffs being moved, potentially moved back, delayed, and good news, folks. They're not. Because what's going to happen is that U High will be in the playoffs for now. They're in the number 2 seed. We'll go over the playoff brackets. But what will happen is they have a hearing on November 18th. If they lose the hearing, U
Next
High
Monday.
will not be in the playoffs. So they would the winner of Buckeye Booker T. Washington would advance to the next round. If they lose, if they win, they'll continue to play, be the number 2 seed, and have a chance at the playoffs. So just to give y'all a thought on that, and we'll talk about it both ways, I guess. We'll talk about each and every one of us if they are playing or if they're not. See how that plays out. But I'm joined by Grant Sacheret of Crescent City Sports and Rigorous Sports Media, also a former Gridiron football intern. Does a great job for Crescent City Sports, and he's doing his own thing, Rigorous Sports Media, helping him with Friday nights in the Bayou as well. I was on Grant's show, so you go and check that out. Make sure to subscribe to his channel. Does a great job as myself and Grant. We gave our raw thoughts as the brackets came out. So make sure to go and check that out. And I'm also joined by Daryl Felker and Alex Allison, who've also done a great job for us at Gridiron Football. So check out their content at our website, gridironfootballusa.com. Now, guys, let's talk about Division Two Select. So the number 1 seed, we're going to talk about the Archbishop Shaw Eagles. Archbishop Shaw has had a great season. Hank Tierney, a coaching legend in the profession, has won a state championship at Archbishop Shaw. Has come back last year for a second tenure, and he's done a phenomenal job. And right now, the Eagles are playing like one of the best teams in the state of Louisiana. I call them Michigan South because they got two Michigan commits on their football team, and Jasper Parker and as well as the receiver as well for them too. And they got some really good players too. Mason Wilson, the quarterback, as well. And they got the number 1 seed. They got a bye in the first round of the playoffs. They'll take on the winner of Oranger and Kenner Discovery. Remember, Kenner Discovery lost to Shaw. I believe it was like 76 to nothing, I believe. But it was they could play Shaw in the second round. Lake Charles College Prep take on McKinley. Peabody was originally that 24th team in the playoffs, but with U High getting those wins back, uh, it is McKinley that takes that 24 seed. They'll take on number 9 seed Lake Charles Prep. John F. Kennedy won their district. They had some wins taken away early in the season, and I'm sure Grant's going to talk more about that as we go through this playoff bracket. But they are seated at number 8, and they will have a bye in the first round of the playoffs. But a sleeper pick to make a state championship run for sure. Speaking of a team that can definitely do that, number 5 seed Madison Prep, they have a bye. They actually defeated U High for the district championship. Daryl Felker was, in fact, at that football game, that rainy football game at Memorial Stadium. They'll take on the winner of St. Charles Catholic Northside. Be a very interesting second round matchup. And Madison Prep does take on the Comets of St. Charles Catholic. They went to, I believe, 5 straight state championships, trying to make it another one, number 6 in a row. Struma takes on Booker T. Washington in the first round. And as Mayor Sid Edwards, hopefully, we'll see if Sid Edwards gets that mayor spot as he runs for mayor of Baton Rouge. And they'll take on Booker T. Washington of Shreveport. Haynes Academy, they had themselves a bye in the first round. What a season. One of the great storylines in Louisiana high school football this season. They have a bye in the first round, but Haynes Academy is undefeated. Let's see what they can do and continue this magical run into the postseason. Number 3, Edie White. This has been a consistent playoff team, has had a great season this year. Their only 2 losses of the season came against Letcher and Jesuit. 2 really good losses for the Cardinals. They'll take on the winner of Frederick Douglass and Livingston Collegiate. Should be an interesting first round matchup there. St. Michael, the Archangel, will take on Archbishop Hannon. St. Michael won their first playoff game as a program last year. They have a chance to do that again. And then they'll take on the Fighting Alex Allisons. That's right. Vanderbilt Catholic. They had themselves a bye in the first round, led by Liberty commit Jalen Coleman. They will have a bye in the first round, take on the winner of St. Michael and Hannon. Speaking of another really good running back, they got one in Leesville. Xavier Ford, one of the state's leading rushers. I believe he is the state's leading rusher. The Wampus Cats. They'll take on the winner of Loyola Prep and Sophie B. Wright. And then finally, U High, as of now, is the number 2 seed. And if they win their appeal, they will take on the winner of Buckeye Booker T. Washington. But it's important here, if they lose that appeal, the winner of Buckeye Booker T. Washington could advance all the way to the quarterfinals. So that is your Division II select playoff bracket. Grant, we're going to start with you first. I know you're very high on Archbishop Shaw, the job Hank Tierney has done this year, the weapons they have offensively, they are fun and exciting to watch. And Grant, break this one down. I mean, it's looking, no matter what the situation is with U High, it's looking pretty clear that the Eagles are definitely the favorite.
Shaw's winning the whole thing. Let's just cut to the chase. They're winning the whole thing. I'm not to break down what breakdown. They're winning the whole thing. I mean, look, I'll say this. The one shot, I think the 2 teams that will give them the most trouble. Well, I know JFK will have to play Lake Charles College Prep, which will be a tough team. However, the JFK quarterfinal game will be a rematch of the quarterfinals from last year where Shaw did, in fact, beat JFK 20-13. I think JFK will make it interesting given who they have and the speed and also physicality. They're well coached as well. Linares Outpatient has done a great job with that program. I bring it to stats that JFK has never experienced before in the program's history. They would be the number 2, number 3 seed if they didn't have their wins taken away because they broke LHSAA rules. And since they don't have Gordon McKernan behind in their pockets, in their back pockets, they had to take the L's and move on, which is what they did, and they responded beautifully, winning every single game for the rest of the way, including the district title game. And I think JFK has a shot to beat Shaw. However, I see Shaw win this bracket. Madison Prep is another good team. However, Madison Prep will be in trouble when they play against St. Charles Catholic in the second round. That is something you need to watch.
Yeah.
Haynes Academy, I think they have a great chance of going to the quarterfinals. Actually, if you look at I was kind of concerned about them. Look at the bracket, but I think they can beat Estruma. However, that'll still be a tough task to ask for.
It's just tough. Yeah, I mean,
it's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough. However, I do think that Haynes Academy could make the quarterfinals, but I don't know. But going down, done with that bracket. Sean's going to the state championship. I'm done with that. Do it as quick as possible. There's no need to break it down. 80, I know disrespect for everybody else. It's just I've seen Shaw play. Go down. Edie White, I think, will be in the semifinals for sure. I think they have a great chance to be in the semifinals. I don't think UI's going to win that case. Let's put it blunt. They're not. I know that we go. Oh, what if UI? What if they do win? Let's say this. No, they're not winning. If they win, I mean, it will be. That's a 5% chance. They got busted badly. Yeah. I just don't see them win that case. But Edie White, I think they're going to advance the semifinals. They will be Vanderbilt Catholic. I would say Vanderbilt Catholic's in maybe a little bit of trouble too if they play against St. Michael. I think St. Michael will give them a shot, although I think Vanderbilt Catholic go to the quarterfinals. We're moving down. Leesville. Let's just say U High does qualify, right?
Right.
Watch out for Leesville.
Yeah.
Leesville is like along with St. Charles Catholic and JFK, they're another sleeper you need to watch it for. Leesville has a great running back, Xavier Ford. He's a legit D1 prospect. He's gotten a few D1 offers recently as well. Watch out for Leesville. If they do go up against U High, I think they're going to give U High all kinds of trouble, although I do think U High will not be in it. I just, for that case, they're so deep in cat poop that or horse turd. Or you got to increase the whale turd I don't know if Wales can poo or not. I'm pretty sure they can, but I just
Everything
can't
can poo.
see. I just can't see U High getting out of that. I mean, if they do, I know there's been a few cases beforehand where the courts have actually gone in favor with the team rather than the LCA. However, in this case, I mean, U High clearly broke the rules. There's no way going back. I have a great respect for the program, a great respect for the school.
Mhm.
I know Coach Martin very well. I got a chance to meet Kevin George, the superintendent for U High.
Yep.
He's a great dude. I think there's a lot of great people over there.
Yep.
But I know a lot of programs I'm close with. Warren East is a great example. I'm really close with that program. My mom's been a long time teacher, and my mom's been a long time employee of Warren Easton as a teacher. Like I'm very close with that program. And even I is like when that came out, they messed up.
Mhm.
So I
Yep.
mean, it's nothing against U High. They messed up. They broke the rules. So
Yeah.
there's no way about it. There's no way to get around it. They broke the rules. I'll be shocked,
Yeah. That'd be
absolutely
shocking.
shocked if they win that case.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. So, okay. Let's just play it the most likely scenario. Grant. U High does not play in the playoffs. Leesville looks like they have a pretty clear shot to the semifinals. Who do you have coming down from the bottom side of the bracket? Do you have Leesville or you have?
I have ED White. I have ED White because they've been there before. It's experience. So I'm gonna go back with experience. It's not a knock on Leesville. I just think ED White. They've been there. I know they had to replace a lot of guys from last year, but EDY as a program have been there before. They've been to
Mhm.
semifinals. They went to the state championship in 2021. I know a lot of those guys were freshmen, but once again, the program expects to go far. They always do. That's how it's been for the last few seasons. Coach Lassane is a great coach.
Yeah.
He'll get these boys ready to play. They have a great quarterback, a great Barbara. They have
Yep.
some great backs in the backfield as well. They're going to be strong defensively. Their only two losses were against Jesuit in like 22-15, and then that was a close game. And then they had another close game with Lutcher.
One touchdown game against Lusher too. So
Yeah.
those are pretty good losses they've had. So I'm with you. I'm not going to save any suspense for me. Make it short, and quick for myself. I have uh, I have Ed White taking on Shaw in the state championship game, and I have Shaw win it all. I mean, they're just so good offensively. I don't think anybody in this bracket is going to be able to keep up with them. But I mean, Mass and Prep. I mean, really, the sleepers here that are really the top side of the bracket that Shaw would have to play. I mean, John F. Kennedy, they have the talent to do that. They compete against 5A teams and be in some 5A teams this year, but I just don't think they have enough depth right now to compete with Shaw. And I really like Shaw offensively. Mass and Prep can definitely they have the athletes to make it interesting as well against Shaw. But I'm gonna go with Shaw in the top side of the bracket. An upset to keep in mind for I mean St. Charles Catholic could make it interesting. They could beat Mass and Prep. I mean, I don't. That's not a great matchup for Mass and Prep. I know St. Charles Catholic has had an interesting has had not type of season that they usually have in years past. But this is still a well coached St. Charles Catholic football team that's catching stride a little bit. They're playing their best football, and they're returning some guys from injury. Skylar Edwards being one. So St. Charles Catholic is playing some of their best football too. That should be a great matchup. I actually have a Struma being Haynes Academy, just because I don't think Haynes Academy has been, um, as battle tested this year. And Struma's got some great athletes. Kyrie Paul being one, Jeremiah Coleman being a linebacker too. He's a great player, and Sid Edwards has been a veteran. So I can see that being an upset alert for Haynes Academy. But I got Shaw. No question about it. The bottom side of the bracket is going to be interesting. I see Leesville playing Ed White in the semifinals. That'll be a great matchup. But Ed White, I saw them in person this year, and their quarterback, like you mentioned, Grant, he's a really good player. He actually did pretty well, fared pretty well against that Letcher defense, and they got some really good running backs, and they're pretty balanced offensively. Maybe them being a run first team. But defensively, they're really strong as well. Their defense is really good. They gave Letcher's offense some fits besides two or three plays in that game. But I'm going to go with Edie White. And I mean, I expect Shaw to really run away, no matter if U High is really in the bracket or not, because U High has struggled this year. They beat Catholic. I mean, that was a big win this year. But they've struggled, especially in bad weather games, especially getting into this type of year where, it's cold, it's rainy. If they do play in these type of games. I mean, I see them struggling a little bit too because they've won against Woodlawn, but that was bad field game, and they only won 3-0. I mean, me and you were there, Grant, for Rumble in U High, and they could not move the ball when it started just being monsooning in a downpour. And then Daryl was there for Madison Prep and U High, and Madison Prep won them, beat U High to win the district championship. So if we get some bad weather against like a Leesville or against an ED White, it's going to be tough for U High to win. But I'm not sure they want to be in this position to begin with. So I'm going to go with ED White against Shaw. Alex, I'm going to go with you because you were actually at ED White, Vanderbilt Catholic. So you're actually pretty close to this bracket here. And you being a former alum of Vanderbilt Catholic. So how good of a chance you think the Terriers have here?
They're definitely going to win the state championship. There is no doubt. No, I'm kidding. Okay, so this is a really interesting bracket because I feel like we're one result away from all hell breaking loose and nobody knows what's going to happen. And that result is I think, more eminently possible than some people think, although I think Grant did a really good job of addressing this, and that's JFK beating Shaw.
Yeah.
If this happens, nobody knows who's going to win this title.
Yeah.
Because it's possible. It is so possible. I watched JFK play St. Paul's earlier this year, and that is a JFK team that can compete with if everything is clicking. That's a team that can win that game because the way they move the ball on offense. The only team that can beat them is themselves at times.
Yeah. There's sometimes penalties.
Yes.
Mistakes.
Inconsistency.
Yeah.
The quarterback's just going to start running around and then find someone, launch this moon ball, where there's a certain freeze point sometimes with an offense that if an offense is clicking on all cylinders and has the capacity to click on all cylinders, they can beat anybody. JFK is not a consistent team. I don't think they're going to win the state championship even if they do beat Shaw. But that doesn't mean they can't win that game. And if they do, who knows? Especially if ULEP isn't playing.
Yeah.
You could have a semifinal setup with 4 teams and genuinely have no idea which of those teams is going to win the state championship and have no idea. So, with that in mind, I think Shaw's going to win the state championship.
Yeah. There's pressure on Shaw. I got to admit that too, Alex. That there's some big pressure if they do not win the state championship.
Because everyone thinks they're going to win it. Yeah. And it's like a Dakar. It's like people talking about, we talked about this with Neville earlier, where it's like, if not now, then when, and Dakar, if not now, then when.
Right.
You might not even be in this thing this year, Shaw. You might not have, you have to do it in some ways.
Yeah, you have to.
And there is a lack of depth in some ways in this bracket. Other than like St. Charles Catholic and maybe 1 or 2 other teams, you're looking at outside of the 4 or so favorites. Like, there's just not that many chances for upsets. You've got so let's talk about Vanderbilt ED White. I was just at this game last Thursday. A couple of really important notes. Vanderbilt's starting quarterback Jack Chestnut did not play in that game. The game was also not in the rain, but in sort of muddy conditions. ED White completed 1 pass in the game. That's not their offense.
Yeah.
It's the sort of offense that if you can jump on them early, I think you can get them out of their rhythm, get them out of what they want to do, and maybe knock off an upset. But that's really difficult to do because their defense is really, really good.
They are.
And does it look different with Vanderbilt starting quarterback? Because my understanding, from what I heard, as a trusted insider of the high school, what I've heard is that it was a concussion. That means he might be back for the quarterfinals. Now, I really like Ethan Henney, their backup quarterback. I thought he was inconsistent, but he showed some flashes. And James Guidry, the wide receiver at Vanderbilt, also looks really, really good at times. So it's the sort of team that if they can catch a couple of breaks early in the game, get off to like a 10-0 lead, a 14-0 lead, maybe things look different. Maybe Vanderbilt can knock off ED White. And then if you can beat ED White, everything's open. Everything's open because the other bracket in this like semifinal thing is really weird, right? Because we're talking about a world where Leesville might just sleepwalk to the semifinals, genuinely,
Yeah,
right?
pretty much.
Like if U doesn't win the case, and I'm not a legal expert, I don't know. I'll take Grant's word for it that they probably won't. I haven't looked into it, but if they don't, and even if they do, like obviously they would be favored against Leesville, but it's not like that game would be unwinnable. We just watched them lose to Madison Prep, who's also in this bracket. So it's not like is if is in it, then it's just versus Shaw. Obviously,
Yeah.
it might be versus Shaw, but who knows? But I think there's a really big role here where Leesville just sleepwalks to a semifinal game against probably Edie White, and we get that semifinal matchup. And at that point, I'll go ahead and take Leesville. I think that's not to say that Edie White can't win the game. I think Edie White is. There's a reason why the other two people that I've talked so far, or everyone really has talked about Edie White being in the state championship game. I think there's a really good chance for that happening. But I'll go ahead and go against the grain here, and I think part of it is just, is there a world where Leesville doesn't play anyone with a? And this is mean, but anyone with a pulse until they play the semifinal
And
games.
another thing, they make now. Shaw's got a couple Michigan commits, Jacob Washington, Jasper Parker, but Leesville might have the best player in this bracket,
Yeah,
Xavier Ford. So
Xavier Ford's really
yeah.
good, and it's let's talk about that Leesville Edie White semifinal game. Let's assume that's what we get. Xavier Ford just breaks off a run to begin the game, and Edie White starts off down 7-0. You got to stop because Edie White's offense isn't super explosive from what I saw in the Vanderbilt game. It's just not. They don't complete passes down the field, and they're a 4 yards, 4 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, and they're going to slowly wear you down in a game that was tied in the fourth quarter. They're going to wear you down and win the game in the fourth quarter. But if Leesville can get off to a lead, which is possible, now Edie White's run defense is really, really good, but if he can have that kind of game, I think Leesville can win. I'll go ahead and take him. I'll go against the grain. I'll take him to be in the state championship game against Shaw, but it's Shaw. And we talked about it with Airline earlier, where is this a team that's built to win in December when it's cold and rainy? Shaw is.
Yeah.
This isn't that sort of team that's high flying and might run into a rough situation when the conditions don't go their way. Jasper Parker is a monster,
Yeah.
and that whole team is a monster. JFK is a team that is built to have a chance to beat those like awesome 5A teams. The problem is that Shaw just looks like one of those awesome 5A teams. they would.
Wilson, I don't think Grant, you know about Mason Wilson a whole lot. I don't think he gets really the credit he really deserves. I mean, this kid is a baller.
Yeah, he's the perfect Hank Tierney quarterback. He's an athlete. He can run for sure. I mean, he's a great athlete, and also he can make the throws that he can make. Hank Tierney's an option guy at heart, which and that's what we used to run now in the modern day. You got to run this, got to spread it out a bit. So that's why they run the spread option, and they're very good at it. But I would say this, a lot of people keep talking about the offense. Not a whole lot of people are talking about Shaw's defense. They got dudes, and they're young. Yeah. And all those guys will be back next year. And Roderick Carter just picked up an offer from Boston College. He may have picked another offer or two here, I think, as well. But they got a lot of really good players on defense. Matter of fact, I sent a list to Jace, and a lot of those guys that put on the list were defensive guys, actually. So there's a lot of great play. And also, Adam Giglio is one of the best defense coordinators in the state. He was a very successful defense coordinator at both Holy Cross and Brother Martin. He was part of that those Brother Martin teams from 2020 through 2022, where they went to the semifinals 3 years in a row, and the big part of that was because of their defense. And he's going to be a guy that you should watch it for as these head coach openers are coming out. Right now, he's going to be a guy. He's going to be a candidate. It might be, but really, I think. And this could be a wild card, but I think he might be the successor to Tierney when Tierney decides to retire. Because remember, Hank Tierney retired before he came back to Shaw. Shaw brought him back, and because remember he used to coach the Shaw beforehand. But he was in retirement, and Shaw did a lot to say, "Hey, do you want to come back and coach for maybe a few more years to get the right the ship?" Because remember, before he took over, Shaw was in a lot of, they weren't.
They're playing the Catholic League.
They were
Yep.
playing the Catholic League, and they needed a fresh start. And then, the facilities and everything were in place, so it was a much better job than it was 5-10 years ago. So he came back out of retirement, and I think if I'm with Benny Man, he will be the successor to take over at Shaw. But then again, also another really good job could open up, and I think he's gonna be a hot coaching candidate in the future. But right now, we're talking about the right now. Shaw's the favorite, and Leesville's, I think his team is gonna be the semifinals. Although I just don't think that they're gonna go to the state championship just because they haven't been there before, and that's a factor when you're talking about the playoffs.
Yeah.
However,
So is Shaw though.
you know what?
So is Shaw.
But Shaw, Tierney's been to the Dome before. He's coached the Dome a bunch of times.
Oh yeah.
Shaw was in the semifinals last year. Then the quarterfinals the year before that. I mean, so I know that's true. But Leesville, when was the last time? The last time Leesville was in the semifinals was in 2018, and they really hadn't gotten that far since then.
Right.
So I'm just factoring the amount of times they've been in the playoffs and how far they've been. They've gotten closer and closer year in and year out. This is the year they're going to do it.
Yeah.
Especially in a weaker Division 2, select Division 2 bracket.
So I do. There are two things I wanted to touch on before we kind of wrapped up, if that's all right.
Let Daryl talk because I know Daryl's been waiting.
Daryl hasn't talked yet. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Never mind. I'll wait.
Daryl, go. Jesus.
Daryl, what do you have to say? I know you've been waiting patiently. So
I mean, y'all basically hit it on the head. I mean, Shaw is the favorite for a reason. They've been playing amazing all season. So I mean, yeah, I definitely think they're going to be in the semifinals at least. And going down, Madison Prep is. I just saw them, and I feel like I saw them at their best almost, because I mean they started the season off 0-3, and they ended the season off winning out and with a really big district championship win over U High. While the game was, it wasn't a regular game because the conditions, it was super rainy, but the way that they showed up and stepped up to win that game, it makes me feel like they have a chance in the playoffs to go a little bit farther than some of these other teams, because I'm not as familiar with them. And Madison Preps, it feels like they're just clicking right now. They're really locked in. They really want it. And yeah, I feel like that can take them to at least the semi. Yeah, so I'll roll with them to the semifinals. And then against Shaw, I'm gonna roll with Shaw. I love Madison Prep, but like you guys said, I don't think anybody on this side of the bracket can stop Shaw unless it's, like you guys said, a John F. Kennedy.
Weather, like you mentioned, Daryl, if that comes into play and it's like a rainy, wet game against Shaw, that could be that can balance it out. So Mother Nature could be involved, and who knows? Crazy.
Yeah, because the Madison Prep offense, they looked really good in the rain. They didn't need to throw the ball. They got the job done. Yeah, they looked really good. So yeah, so I think those would be my two picks from the top half. And then on the bottom half, as we've said, Edie White, I saw them against Letcher in one of their only losses this season. And they only had two, and the other was against Jesuit, who's Catholic League, a really good team. So I definitely think I'm going to roll with them over Vanderbilt Catholic. Sorry, Alex. Hate to say it. Yeah, I think, like you said, that was the game that we were actually at together. Their quarterback, he looked really good, and their defense, I think that was just a tough matchup for them, and they've handled business in all the other matchups this season. So, yeah. So, and then Leesville, you guys touched on it. Xavier Ford, I definitely think they're going to make it to the quarterfinal. Then against ULab, I'm not sure, but like we said, 95% they won't be in it. So I have them going to the semifinal, and I think that Leesville and Edie White will be a really good game, because one of the things that kind of helped Letcher win that game was Trenton Cheney. And when you have a really good running back, like an X factor like that, such as Xavier Ford on Leesville, I'm excited to see how they will handle trying to bottle him up. And I think if they can, then they'll be successful. They'll win the game. And I think that if he runs for 200-300 yards, they lose the game because
Yeah. What's that?
Yeah, just because they were in the electric game as well, and that run game kind of just separated it.
Mhm.
And so I'm gonna roll with Edie White and Leesville in the semis. I'm gonna roll with Leesville. I'll switch it up.
Okay.
I'll roll with Leesville. So I have Leesville and Shaw in the championship, and hopefully, like you guys said, it would be a big letdown for Shaw if they didn't win this year, just because of how everything is playing out. So I'm going to roll with them, and hopefully they can get it done.
I gotta say, if they meet in the state championship, if you like running backs, watch that game. I
Heard
mean,
you like running backs.
Jasper Parker, and you look at Xavier Fortaleza. I mean, they got some running backs. I mean,
Yeah.
Jalen Coleman at
Yep. Vanderbilt
Catholic.
Yep.
I mean, like Madison Prep's got a good running back too.
Yep.
Alfred McKnight. So I mean, it's got some good running backs in this bracket. So, but I agree with y'all with Shaw win the state championship, whether it's Leesville, Edie White, or who knows if UI does end up playing a game, they're going to be back in it. But we'll keep you posted on that situation.
So-
By next week, when we break down round 2, we'll know for sure, either one way or another, what the situation is.
Sure.
But hopefully, Coach Tierney, we don't jinx you either. But as we're all rolling with Shaw to go with Division II select. And I believe, Grant, this will be their first state championship since the 80s, right? 1989.
Yeah, because 87. So
87,
they've been
87.
to the dome a lot.
Yeah.
Shaw, a lot. Like,
Yeah.
but that's the only one they
Even in
won.
the 2000s, they've been in the dome quite
They
a lot.
went to the dome 3 years in a row and
Yep.
lost 3 years in a row. Like they've lost a lot of state championships in the dome.
Yep.
And even Hank has lost a lot in the dome as
Yeah.
well. Including the loss in 2021 with Ponchatoula. Although that Ponchatoula team was not beating Zachary that year. I mean that Ponchatoula team was awesome, but that year, I mean, they just
quarterback.
Yeah, I mean they weren't going to beat Zachary that, and also because Zachary was the more experienced team. Ponchatoula had not been to the dome. Well, they hadn't been to a state championship.
Yeah.
Because remember, they didn't start playing in the dome until the late 70s, early 80s. But the last time Ponchatoula had even competed for state championship was 1940. America hadn't even entered the World War II yet. So that just shows you how long ago that was. And that place was packed. I remember going to that game. That place on Ponchatoula side was packed because they'd never been there before. So, but once again, you go against an experienced team like Zachary. Zachary's more experienced team, and they won by a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll see if Shaw goes back and wins a state championship for the first time since the 80s. Hank Tierney, it would be a great way. The second tenure at Shaw to win the state championship. And we'll see if the Eagles will be the Division II select state champions. It's been a long time coming. It's been a rough couple of years for the Eagles. So it'll be a good way to get back on top of the high school football world. Guys, make sure to comment. Tell us who you think comes out of Division II select bracket, and make sure to follow us with our content. You can go to gridironfootballusa.com, subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, and we'll do this weekly as well as we keep up with the playoff brackets on the road to the Dome. There's another segment here, Division II select playoff bracket breakdown on Ballin the Boot.